Good afternoon, I'm Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle with you. It is 2:30, and there has been a couple of tornado warnings issued into northeastern Oklahoma. So I'm going to take a quick look at those. I don't expect much activity out of at least one of them, just because it looks like it may be going on the colder side of the frontal boundary. But we're going to look at that here in detail to see if there still is an imminent threat. As far as I know, there weren't any official touchdowns or confirmations as of yet. These are all radar indicated. We got two storms up here in northeast Oklahoma, so this is what we're going to focus on for now. So here in central Oklahoma, not much going on. We had some showers moving through earlier on, and then up here we have an influx of two boundaries. So this is kind of a reminiscent of a cold front boundary here, an outflow boundary here, and then comes back in like this. So it's where the storms are ingesting the portions of these surface boundaries that helps to get a little extra vorticity spun up. And overall, with the upper level low coming in, you get shear in the atmosphere. You get turning with height. And so that can sometimes cause a weak tornado to develop. And of course, if the boundary is a lot stronger, they can help to actually make the tornado a little stronger than it otherwise would be. So this particular case, we'll take a look at. Now, the tornado warning for the Sapulpa area has since expired. If I go back in time here, you can see how it kind of developed out of Kellyville. Wasn't much, just a nice little thunderstorm, but what happened is it hits the boundary right about west of Sapulpa, and when that did that, it created a little bit of a hook echo going through the northwest side of town, and it still has a little bit of a hook to it, and it's still on the boundary, but the Weather Service right now, based off the velocity data, which is this right here, doesn't show any tight couplet, so they let it expire and transformed it over to a severe thunderstorm warning. But we'll still watch this one for a few minutes to see if anything happens. It can change quickly since it is on the boundary, but that'll be working its way into Tulsa County, so obviously worth watching. The one down here east and northeast of Tulsa from around Catoosa, that one started out around the Catoosa Fair Oaks region. Same kind of idea. It got onto the ingest of the boundary, and when it did, it had this nice little appendage to it. So high-resolution radar data able to pick up that pretty well as it moved off to the north. So this would be where the tornado would try to develop. Again, it's kind of on the borderline of the colder side of air, though, but it's kind of pulling in that boundary a little bit. So the velocity data has not been impressive. We normally see for a tornado. Matter of fact, kind of a little bit more outflow dominated. So I haven't been overly concerned, but anytime you get those little boundary interactions, you can quickly get something to spin up. So those are the reasons why you have the two tornado warnings, even though they may not verify. It's just one of those just in case kind of deals. They're good storms. They're going to have a little bit of small hail with them for sure. But right now, the focus, of course, would be on the spinning nature of the storm. So if you're new here in Oklahoma, we're looking at northeast Oklahoma around Tulsa. So not in Oklahoma City, nowhere near. Nothing expected like that here in the rest of the state. This is all going to be for northeast Oklahoma for the rest of this afternoon into southwest Missouri and northwest Arkansas, as I mentioned earlier in a Facebook post this morning. But let's see here. So we're going to watch this guy right here coming into Oakhurst. And let's see where the position of this little hook echo would be. It's just right along 44, the turnpike, but it's an intersection from Canyon Road and South 67th West Avenue. That's the location where that little circulation center would be. So if you live in that area, it looks like a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of road networks in here, densely packed. So if you live in this region, that's where you would be focusing your attention. Now, do you need to be in your shelters? Not necessarily. There's no tornado warning, but it's just the lowering is what we're looking for this part of the storm. It's going in an area. It's also around 54 degrees in the dew point with a temperature of 66. So like I said, it's kind of on that cusp of it probably won't do anything. It's just because this little boundary interaction down the south, which you can still see ingesting right here, this little fine blue line that comes right in here, and that would over try to compensate for the fact that it's not in the most ideal atmosphere when it tries to produce a tornado. The probability of a tornado producing is only around 10%, so it's very, very low. But that's for that storm coming into Tulsa, so watch that one for you for a minute. And then the one up here northeast of Tulsa heading up toward Claremore, and then that one also, same kind of idea. It's riding a little boundary interaction down here to the south. It's feeding into it, but it's not looking as, neither one of them looked great, but they were enough to have some concern. So we'll look into this one. This is coming right over the river right now. Closest intersection I have, let's take a look. Right now it's over... It actually looks like it's over no man's land, which is great. It eventually, once it gets off this track here, Hughes Road, Hughes Road, and then Where are we? Give me a cross street. Luckily, this is out in the middle of nowhere. This is great. Look at all this. Perfect. See all these trees? When I tell you it's in the middle of nowhere, I mean it. So that's great news. There's no population at all, no homes, no nothing for a while here during the next 15 minutes or so. So that's good news. That means if it were to produce a tornado, no one would be affected unless they're channeling down the river right here, which I doubt that's happening also. Okay, so we'll get back to that once it has a threat to produce something, with an actual town or people involved. It's going to have to work its way up toward Highway 88 between Justice and Tiowa before it gets into a few homes and farm ranches up there. So we got a ways to go for that one. But that's definitely one to watch. And I like to show you the ground underneath the warning so you can see exactly where it is, and then that way we can tell you if any bones actually even affect them. It's one thing to plot streets and stuff, and that's great. It's also great sometimes to see the underlay from the overlay, and that's to see, okay, what do we actually have that would be in the path, and right now it's just trees. Out here at Oakhurst, now that one's a little bit more in a populated area like we talked about, but the signal doesn't look all that great, but you can see a lot of homes here in the satellite viewpoint here amidst the trees. So a lot of densely packed neighborhoods in this area. So that one's obviously of more concern. But the data just doesn't look all that great. We'll watch it here just for a couple more minutes and see, because it'll be coming on into Tulsa proper here in just a few minutes. It does have some hail with it, just under 3/4 of an inch. So about a nickel or dime size hail probably. You might get nickels out of it. Are they actually weakening some? Let's take a look here. The one in Sapulpa, it is weakening the last few frames. That's good news. And the one coming in toward Claremore, I keep saying that, Claremore, is holding its own, but is fairly weak also. So that's good news that neither one are really, really strong supercells. Okay, so let's see. What else do I have here? Let's pull up some other radar data from a different source. Let's take a look at the next rad, which is really, really close. And I mean, stupid close. And you would think, hey, that's good that it's that close. Sometimes not. It just depends. If it gets caught in the ground clutter fence, that kind of eats away the data when that happens. And that's why you're getting some of the data eaten away. It's within the ground clutter fence of the radar where it tries to eliminate and remove ground clutter as a fake target. But in exchange, because of that, there's a flip side of the equation, and that's eliminating some of the true echoes. So sometimes it didn't help out, didn't work that well in our favor. Let's see, let's update the storm motion. Okay, so that would be the little circulation center. Yeah, and East 21st Street is the main street I can find that just runs east out of that direction. It eventually crosses up over South 305th East Avenue. So that's kind of the place for this one. Probability of the tornado is only 5%, so very, very low. If that boundary wasn't there, there would be zero chance. It wouldn't do anything other than a little tiny hail with it. But that's what we have up there in northwest Oklahoma that we're watching. Let's see here. Let me do this. Look at a couple things to check out how the storm looks in structure. It's a very small low-top supercell. It's only 20,000 feet. That's a baby thunderstorm, by the way. Which is why I was saying if there's no boundary interaction, this thing likely wouldn't have a chance to do anything other than some small hail. So that's the way that storm looks in the three-dimensional plane. Let me take a look at the velocity data. Yeah, not overly impressed there either. Okay, and this one, let's do the same thing at 20 knots. No. Okay, still good news there. Okay, so let's see. Reports just came in of a wall cloud. That does not surprise me. So this is from a storm chaser out here just south of Tiowa. All right, we shall see how this does over the next few minutes. Let's see, let's go back to this radar view. Nothing exciting on that one. That's good. So you should be in your shelters, of course, for tornado warnings, despite the fact whether one is actually going to occur or not. Typically, it means conditions are somewhat favorable for potential development at the very minimum of that warning criteria. So you want to treat it as though it could produce one. So you want to be in your shelters until that storm moves by you. So if you live in Claremore and just east of there, in this little area toward Justice, you want to be in your shelters until this little storm passes by you, which will take probably about another 30 minutes. But that right now is the path of that tornadic supercell. The one down here southwest of Tulsa, let's take a look at it again. Probability of a tornado has gone up to 19%. Let's take a look what's happening here. Interesting look. Still outflow dominated. That's good. Outflow dominated means that the downdraft of the wind at the bottom of the storm supersedes any influx of wind. And that makes sense because there's a northeast wind right here out of the storm versus kind of an east wind or a southeast wind. So the wind component's a little off kilter. So there's not much going for either one of these to try to produce a tornado. The winds here are a little bit more favorable due to the movement. Still not much. That's almost due north wind. Yeah, these are meager, very meager opportunities. So we'll hang this just for a few more minutes. But regardless, again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning for Tulsa County. I'm looking and waiting for some new information. Let's see. All right, sit here for a second. Probably just changed to still 19%. So these probabilities update, I believe, every about 3 to 6 minutes. And it just takes into effect some of the current conditions in the atmosphere and also current radar, and it tries to predict whether or not, on a probability scale, if it will produce a tornado. And it's been fairly low. The 19% is the highest. Now, last night we had some. At one point, I think that was up to close to 70%, but most of them were low as well. Let's see here. How's this one do? Yeah, I'm not impressed with either one yet. They've dropped the tornado warning for this one, northeast Oklahoma. So they don't even have a severe thunderstorm warning on it yet. They may reissue a severe, but they've dropped that one as well. So there's no official tornado warnings right now in the state. Those are the only two. A weak-looking wall cloud with this one, and no reports of a wall cloud with this one yet, but it's also fairly disorganized. This one's actually the better looking of the two storms, but it's been outflow dominated. There's no circulation centers with it at the lowest level. Let me see if I can even find anything at the mid-level. Okay, there we go. What we're looking at 5,000 feet. Starting to come together a little bit. Just really broad mid-level mesocyclone. All right, that's 13,000 feet. Okay, so nothing low level. It would have to be the boundary to do it, and the boundary's not doing it. So I guess it means it's good. It means I think we can let this one go. Okay, so look, I just want to briefly cut in because of those two potential tornadic situations up there in Tulsa. Just let you guys know if you need to be concerned or not. They have both since evaporated, and nothing came of either one, except looks like a wall cloud reported in one of them. And for a minute, though, it looked like something might happen, but it didn't. So we're back to all's good again. So make sure you use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It'll warn you of these type of storms coming into town. If you live in Tulsa, you might be getting a twisting storm alert, which means the storm is rotating in the mid-levels right now. And with the shear in the atmosphere, you might end up squeezing out something. Should it re-intensify a little bit and better adjust that boundary right now. It's struggling to do so. They could change, but from what I see right now, I don't see anything imminent at this point in time. But keep that in mind, though, as that storm does move through Tulsa. You get a little small hail out of it as well. So that's the latest with that. Okay, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time and for watching AT's Weather. Talk soon.